Dad!
Doyle?
Dutch is a 1991 comedy film written by John Hughes and directed by Peter Feynman that would not perform well at the box office, but would gain a major cult following in the first quarter of the 21st century as a Thanksgiving classic. Ed O'Neill stars as Dutch Dooley, a working-class man living in Chicago, Illinois. Dutch is dating his wealthy, upper-class but down-to-earth girlfriend, Natalie Standish, played by JoBeth Williams.
I don't care for caviar. I make it a rule never to eat anything a fish deposits in a riverbed.
It's been awfully nice meeting you.
Dutch.
Indeed.
Natalie's ex-husband Reed, played by Christopher McDonald, informs Natalie that he will have to cancel his Thanksgiving plans with their son Doyle, played by Ethan Embry.
Do you know how to knock? Your mom's on the phone. Someone from any sort of decent background would knock. She's not my ma. I don't have a ma. You may have a ma. I have a mother.
Natalie calls Doyle at his private school down in Georgia, inviting him home for Thanksgiving. Doyle, angry and resentful, rebuffs his mother's offer.
I'm calling about Thanksgiving.
What about it?
I'd like you to come home.
For the umpteenth time, I'll be with Dad.
Dad can't be with you, honey. He has to go to Europe. He told me last night. So if he's made any plans with you, obviously he'll have to break them. I really want you to come home, Doyle.
I'm not coming home to spend a holiday with you or the idiot you're sharing the house with, okay?
He is not sharing the house with me, and he is hardly an idiot.
Dutch decides to further his relationship with Natalie by offering to drive down to Georgia and bring Doyle back home to Chicago for Thanksgiving.
There's no better way for two guys to get to know each other than to spend a couple of days in a car.
Dutch, he doesn't want to know you.
Dutch thinks that a few days together on the road will allow he and Doyle to bond.
I'm an interested third party. I'm a communicator. I'm a breakthrough kind of guy.
After he arrives at the private school in Georgia, Dutch finds Doyle, only to be violently attacked.
What the hell?
I said stand up!
I don't think you know who I am. Ow! Son of a... Ow! Give me the gun! Give me the gun! Ah! Gosh. Oh, you know. Sit. I'm Dutch Dooley. I'm a friend of your mother's. I know she called you. What the hell are you beating me up for?
Does campus security know you're here?
Can you say, I'm sorry I hit you with a golf club? Kicked your face, mashed your testes, shot you twice? If that's too much, a simple hello would do.
Finding Doyle to be snobbish, selfish, elitist, and an all-around pain in the ass, he has to literally drag Doyle to the car, kicking and screaming.
What do you like to do for fun? Oh, you like to wiggle and grunt? Me too.
Dutch tries to get Doyle to warm up to him, but Doyle scoffs at Dutch for being working class.
Solid economy needs hand workers.
Well, I used to drive a cement truck. My father was a bricklayer. My mother used to work in the laundry at the Pontchartrain Hotel, Detroit.
You must be very proud.
I am. You know, you might be the toughest little whacker in the junior high, but in my world, you're about as worrisome as a cloudy day.
Dutch does his best to try and lighten the mood and bring Doyle out of his shell.
You like fireworks? Is that a yes, a no, a maybe? Your testicles descending? What?
Fireworks are illegal in Illinois.
Yes, they are, but this is Tennessee, so it doesn't matter.
You're like a great big demented child.
The two come to blows after Doyle leaves Dutch's car parked in the middle of the street, only to be hit by a truck.
Listen, you little son of a bitch, you could have killed somebody with a stunt like that. That poor bastard was on his way home to see his family. And because you want to play some kind of a spoiled brat prank, you put his life in jeopardy. Now, what gives you the right to do that, huh?
I guess I didn't think about that.
You better start thinking about a little something else besides your own spoiled ass. I took on this idiotic assignment because I love your mother. I gotta wonder how nuts I am.
The two eventually wind up hitching a ride with two prostitutes, Haley, played by E.G. Daly, and Brock, played by Ari Myers. Doyle becomes infatuated with Brock.
I want to get back in the car and keep moving.
Yeah, I know why you want to keep moving. Let me tell you something, Dwight. Those two gals are a couple of pros. You know, I got half a mind to refuse the rest of the trip. You and I are riding in the back seat from now on, because what that missile twister can teach you, you don't need to learn till you're in prison.
After Haley steals Dutch's wallet, they find themselves abandoned, out of money, and out of ideas.
Your angel with the dirty wings flew, taking my wallet, my luggage, my last cigar.
She was so understanding about my problems.
Stuff your problems.
Stuff your problem.
Can Dutch and Doyle become friends? And can they make it back home to Chicago in time for Thanksgiving? This movie was written by prolific writer, director, producer John Hughes. And at one point, Hughes considered directing this film himself, but he reconsidered because of the film's similarities to his other hit film, 1987's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That movie revolved around two characters who didn't really like each other at first, who go on a road trip to try and get back to Chicago for Thanksgiving. In essence, this movie is a sequel or a remake to that film, minus the trains and planes. Prior to filming, director Peter Feynman, writer and co-producer John Hughes, and producer Richard Vane took a road trip throughout Georgia, the Carolinas, Mississippi, and Tennessee to scout the route of the film's characters. Feynman liked most of the places he had seen during the trip, and they ended up in the final film. The movie was filmed in Illinois, Tennessee, and Georgia from November 1990 to February 1991. John Candy was the first choice to play Dutch Dooley. Tim Allen was in consideration for the role, as were Tom Hanks, Jim Belushi, Robin Williams, John Goodman, and Bill Murray.
Daddy, we don't have any food.
My underwear has no elastic.
Ed O'Neill was very popular around 1991, starring on the popular crude comedy sitcom Married with Children on the Fox television network. In a 1994 episode of Married with Children, Ed O'Neill and Katie Seagal's characters walk into a video store and look briefly at a rack that showed a poster of this film with a sign over O'Neill's face that said free video. 12 years after this film's release, Ed O'Neill and Ethan Embry would work together on the short-lived ABC television reboot Dragnet in 2003 and 2004. The last name of Doyle and his family is Standish, and this name was also used in another John Hughes film, 1985's The Breakfast Club. Molly Ringwald's character's name was Claire Standish. In the John Hughes movie universe, Natalie and Doyle Standish may have a relation to Claire Standish from The Breakfast Club. Dutch was released on July 19, 1991, and grossed $4.6 million on a $17 million budget. This made Dutch a box office failure. I first saw this movie sometime in the late 2000s, maybe some 15 to 18 years or so after its release. I enjoyed it. I think it underperformed for a few reasons. First, it is a Thanksgiving-themed holiday movie, and they released it in the middle of July. Studios used to do things like that more in the 1980s and 1990s for some reason. 1988's Die Hard was also released in July, despite taking place on Christmas Eve. A fall release date might have allowed it to perform better. Secondly, Ed O'Neill was popular on television at the time, but was not a huge established box office star in films. Third, this movie is almost a remake of the 1987 hit film Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. John Hughes wrote both films, and this one may have been seen as too similar by some audiences. Finally, John Hughes had written the massive box office hit Home Alone, which had been released in November 1990 and was still in theaters in June of 1991, just a few weeks before the release of this film. I believe all of this contributed to a lackluster performance by this movie. As the decades wore on, especially by the 2010s and 2020s, Dutch became sort of a Thanksgiving cult classic. It is an entertaining film, and it does have some very funny moments.
I'm so lonesome I could cry.
I highly recommend the 1991 Thanksgiving film, Dutch.